All right, folks, let's take a look here at chapter 2. Uh, we're going to be spending some time here and folks like this. So, the preview, we've got 7 sections. Each section will be its own video, and we'll go from there. So, here's our first section about England and the Americas. So, in the 16th century, England was a second rate power in Europe, weakened by internal divisions, especially those between Catholics and Protestants. Once King Henry VIII launched the Protestant Reformation in England by severing the nation from the Catholic Church and establishing the Church of England, or the Anglican Church, with himself as its head. Queen Elizabeth I, who ruled from 1558 to 1603, finally secured the power of the Anglican Church and successfully defended England from its Catholic enemies on the continent, notably the Spanish, whose attempt in 1588 to invade with a massive armada was repulsed. Well into the 1600s, the English also attempted to subdue Ireland and its Catholic population, in part through military conquest, the slaughter of civilians, the seizure of land, and the introduction of English economic practices and colonization. The English expelled Irish Catholics from the land to make room for Protestant settlements called plantations. The cultural practices and ideas that defined England's colonization of Ireland shaped its conquest of North America. Only under Queen Elizabeth's reign did the English look to North America, although at first they were more interested in raiding Spanish cities and treasure fleets than colonization. Their first 2 colonies in Newfoundland and what became North Carolina were small efforts that quickly failed. Humphrey Gilbert, who had earned a brutal reputation in the Irish Wars, established a short-lived settlement in Newfoundland, and Sir Walter Raleigh established a settlement a few years later at Roanoke Island. The first group of settlers at Roanoke abandoned the colony and returned to England. A second group, composed of families, disappeared by the time a ship returned to resupply the colony. With only the word Croatoan inscribed on a tree remaining, the colonists are assumed to have abandoned the settlement to live with the Indians. Raleigh, discouraged by the outcome and financially strained, now realized that additional planning and more financial resources than one person could provide were necessary for the successful establishment of a colony. As in the case of Spain, national glory, profit, and religious mission merged in early English thought about American colonization. The Reformation had solidified Catholic Spain as England's mortal enemy, a stance substantiated by victory over the Spanish Armada in 1588. Spain claimed the spread of Catholicism as justification for colonization, and England claimed to be there to liberate the New World from the tyranny of the Pope. Atrocities were not confined to one imperial nation, but the notion that Spain was uniquely cruel was prominent. That idea allowed those such as Raleigh and Richard Hakluyt to pitch colonization to Queen Elizabeth as an effort to free the New World from Spain, thus tying freedom and empire together. Both men, however, pointed out that glory and power were closely involved as well because colonization could allow England to rival the larger continental powers. Some advocates of colonization argued that North America would absorb England's surplus population in a period of socio-economic crisis and population growth. Colonization would drain away the urban poor and peasants who had been evicted from their own lands and the commons by the enclosures of large landlords, and who seemed to the English elites to threaten social order and stability. Under Henry VIII and Queen Elizabeth I, the unemployed could be whipped, branded, hanged, or even forced to labor. Voluntary or involuntary emigration to the New World seemed to be an alternative that would simultaneously benefit the poor and the English nation. In turn, images of America, such as the one that appeared in Thomas More's Utopia, promoted the New World as a place of wealth and opportunity, where men could escape the hierarchies and inequalities of Europe, gain economic independence by owning land, and rule themselves. These images appealed to ordinary Englishmen and encouraged them to risk migration to America. The main lure for emigrants was not gold, but rather the promise of independence connected to owning land and the ability to pass that land on to children and descendants. So that's the end of our first one here.